40 positions, including close to 20 police officers. Do you support this budget? If not, why not?
Well, I think the city manager has started a process which is absolutely critical, and that is we're going to have to look at our budget and make sure that we are able to pay, not only now, but in the future, for the types of services we need. If I've had an objection to the city manager's approach, it's I happen to believe in a priorities of government approach. So police, for example, which is my #1 priority and the #1 priority of this community, would be funded first. And then you look at what else is necessary to be funded. So it may not always be a question of exactly what the numbers are, but for me personally, it's the approach. In 2004, I used the priorities of government approach when the state faced its biggest challenge. In 1994 and 1995, when our city also faced tremendous budget challenges, we made tough decisions. But it's not always about today. It's also about putting a sustainable budget together that allows us to not have to make these decisions in the future. So I happen to believe that the #1 priority of government is providing public safety. I believe we have to identify exactly what's necessary to ensure that we have adequate resources to meet that goal. Then we have to put the budget together based on our other priorities which I've mentioned to all of you are pretty clear here over 20 years.
Councilman?
Well, once again, I'm in the position of having to update my opponent here on what's actually happening at City Hall. We actually got the funding for 4 police officers via the COPS grant. So we're not talking about 18 officers anymore. We're talking about 14 officers. The core priority of any city government, of any government, is to provide for the safety of its people. And that will be first and foremost. There will be, as your mayor, no layoff of police officers. There are ways, there are programs in the city that we need to essentially do a performance audit. There are certain capital projects that can wait. There are certain things that we need to do to make sure that our officers are not cut. Thank you.
Councilman? Please explain what you perceive are the primary differences between you and your opponent.
Well, my opponent keeps talking about this business experience he has. I've known Skip for 18 years, and I know him in one business that is no longer in business. And so, you know, my exposure has been as a prosecuting attorney for the past 15 years. I supervised a unit. I was the president of the guild that supervised over 150 people. I negotiated contracts with the county executive and the King County prosecutor. And so I would say that the key difference, in my opinion, is leadership, leadership, leadership. Who has the courage to stand up? The biggest issue that has come before the city, other than whether the fundamental question of governance, is whether we're going to have these 45 stories downtown. Are we going to put 45 stories in that downtown area? He was given a full column to ask about this, to answer this question in the paper, and sidestepped the issue completely. He's got 4 different positions on whether we should have a city administrator. We need somebody at City Hall who doesn't give us a different answer depending on the audience. Thank you.
Considering that this question was for both candidates, can we have a full minute for Representative Christian, please?
So, I'm not a leader after 20 years, really. An executive at Burlington Northern, executive at American Express. Person who came down here in 1984 and started my own business. Jim probably didn't use my dry cleaner. I feel bad about that. I know he didn't use my business, Sportswear Services, in Fife. That was one of the largest companies that provided full quality services to the big sportswear companies. Not a leader on the sign code. Wasn't easy. Not a leader starting the police department. Not a leader as far as starting the Friends of the Highlanders. Not a leader in Olympia. Starting the Boeing Task Force. The only first-year member, by the way, who was asked by leadership because of my long-time business experience, not a leader when it came to auto theft, which was a big thing to all of you. Not a leader when it came to sex predator laws, when we had the tragedy of Zena Lennox. Not a leader when it comes to education, which is critical. In fact, for those of us who've been involved in business, I was the Legislator of the Year 5 years in a row for the Washington Association of Career and Technical Education because of my reaching out to all the businesses, not only in this community, around the state. Not a leader? You make the decision.
Hang on, Mike. Choose your person. Please be specific about your position on using EB-5 visas for